We are going to move to our presentations. We have a presentation from Mr. Jamal Boyd Sr. and his community engagement campaign is Light It Up. And we've had some amazing meetings and amazing conversations, myself and Mr. Boyd, and I just thought it would be to the benefit of the citizens of Cincinnati to hear from Mr. Boyd. Mr. Boyd is not new to the community at all. He's been at it for a while, like a lot of us. So I am going to turn the floor over to no, it's still early, isn't it? I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Jamal Boyd. Welcome, Mr. Boyd. You have the floor, sir. Hold it.
Son.
Yeah, there you go.
Good morning, council members and public. I am honored to be here and thank God for the opportunities that I've had with meeting with council member Scotty Johnson, as well as Jan Michelle Kearney, as well as many of the leaders around the efforts to eliminate gun violence in the city of Cincinnati. On July 18th, I lost my nephew to gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. He was the 300th homicide in the city, and they are all there at this point right now, almost at 400 homicides in the city of Philadelphia. So suffice to say, I believe God has a plan, because we had already been working on some of these initiatives here in the city of Cincinnati, Hamilton County, and around the region. But the loss of my nephew has fueled that fire even more around trying to create national best practices that will allow us to, one, educate our communities about how they can play a part in eliminating gun violence, but also empower them to engage in their communities and really eliminating this opportunity for violence to perpetuate and continue. So Councilmember Johnson and I had a conversation last week, and I was sharing with him one of the many initiatives that we're hoping to launch, not just here in Cincinnati, but around the country, as stated. And one of those was a way to, one, honor the work that is being done, applaud the efforts that are being done, but really have a transparent conversation around what's not being done. How do we close the gaps? What else can we do? Because if what we were doing was as effective as it needs to be, we wouldn't have the loss of a high school student by the hands of another 15-year-old as recent as this week in our area. So things like this, we need to really encourage the communities, one, to take back their homes, but then two, take back their neighborhoods, because we make up the neighborhoods in which we live, but also the communities that we serve. So in an effort to do that, we have to educate people around, well, what can I do to make a difference, because this task seems too large. And one of those initiatives is the Light It Up campaign. The goal of the Light It Up campaign is to really engage residents in high crime areas to play their part in the elimination of violent crime and criminal activity. It is well researched and known that in most well-lit neighborhoods, crime is not absent but less likely to occur when it is a well-lit neighborhood. One of the ways that homes and residents and communities can engage is just simply turning on their porch light at night, and also making sure that we hold the city accountable to making sure that every street light is lit in every neighborhood. Again, with this, being able to monitor and track the activity and the reduction of criminal activity or violent crime, this will give us an opportunity to engage homes in playing their part. Second part of Light It Up campaign is allowing each home or resident to be equipped with a Ring camera, because in the communication with police and working to eliminate crime, that video footage will outstand any verbal communication or testimony in a court proceeding. And it also provides the anonymity that allows a resident to feel like they are playing their part, but not getting involved to the degree where they may now be implicated in being attacked or assaulted because they participated in sharing information. So the goal there is for us to work with Ring camera system and identify a funding opportunity to provide those cameras to residents that don't have them. But also, if not, find funding to provide them in our targeted pilot areas, in residential areas, so that then everyone can, again, play their part in helping to resolve crime and criminal activity. Thirdly, being able to engage our energy provider within the districts in which we look to launch this campaign and allow those energy providers to have a sign-up for those who participate and provide an incentive to offset their electric bill for participating in the program. It's a win-win for the community and for the business, because what that allows the resident to do is have no excuse. You have the camera, you have the light, you have the resources that you need to play your part, and now all we have to do is participate and facilitate. But also, we are providing you a financial incentive that will allow you to have a reduction in your bill, because you're now a community active citizen playing your role in helping us to eliminate and reduce crime. It is something that is very simplistic. It is something that can be started within all of the areas that are the highest crime impacted areas, particularly those in minority communities, where we have the opportunity to really drive some change, get some metrics, and then validate the efficacy of the program, and then roll it out into other surrounding neighborhoods as it evolves. So that is one of the ways that I would encourage our city council to help with the elimination of gun violence, violent activity, and violent acts, particularly in minority communities where they are more prevalent than in other suburban areas or rural areas. And let's track it, let's measure it, and let's make it happen.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Boyd. I don't know if my committee has a couple of questions, but
Sure.
I know I'll go to the vice chair in 1 second here. And I know we talked about possibly the connectivity of, we'll call it sponsorship.
Yes.
To, with Ring. Could you talk a little bit about that, or I don't know how deep a dive that
Sure.
you're able to do at this point with that?
And as I shared in our meeting, Councilman Johnson, there is a goal, and I'll be very transparent, to do this without needing to have funding from a funding source to a degree. And what that means is we don't want to owe anybody for doing what's right in the community. We're looking for people or agencies or organizations or funders to step up without looking for a kickback or some type of favor or favor being returned. Because if crime is important in the neighborhoods with the constituents that we serve, then it should be a top priority to make sure that this gets done without any political ties or bureaucracy or red tape. So that's goal number one. And as I had shared with you, the hesitancy or reluctance in sharing it is because it's not fully baked. The goal is to have a conversation with Ring to find out where their community grant funding efforts are as an organization, and say, are you willing to fund this in 5 major cities where there are high crime? If we look at the national rankings for cities with the highest crime, let's target those 5, Philadelphia being one of them. But also, I don't think Cincinnati ranks in that top 10, but it's important because it's where I live, it's where we live. And it is starting to, again, penetrate areas where crime wasn't as highly impacting those communities as it were 2 years ago. 2020, we had the highest in the city of, or Hamilton County crime rate that was, again, unfathomable. But at this point in 2022, we want to make sure that we're getting in front of as much as what we can by partnering with, again, first Ring if they are willing to partner with us. But then secondly, any other donor or funder or sponsor to say that they would be willing to invest in helping the communities save themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Vice Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Boyd. I really love this idea.
Thank you.
I love it. Light it up. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And you might have answered this question already, because I was going to ask about Ring and whether or not you've talked to them and how much they're willing to do. Are they giving some discount? I know there are other companies that have the same kind of product that might be willing as well. I mean, the idea is it doesn't matter which company, right? I mean,
Right.
whatever. So, and then I just wondered if Duke Energy had said anything about reduced rates.
Well, that was a part of the conversation I had with Councilman Johnson last week in terms of making a connection with either Duke or some energy provider that would say, okay, we can develop a system that will allow residents to sign up so that then we can track your usage and participation, but then also incentivize you for that in a very, simplistic but sophisticated way that, again, shows the measurement as well as working with the city to look at crime statistics and make sure that we parallel the participation with the statistics to see that it is having an impact in those neighborhoods.
I think that's great. Okay. Well, yeah, so let's find out more about it. I mean, this sounds like a really great plan. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Jeffries.
Yeah, awesome. I love the plan, and especially because Ring is owned by Amazon. So I think Amazon has an incentive where they're leaving packages to make sure that they are not stolen, which often does happen in any neighborhood. And so I think there's some built-in incentive there. You mentioned targeted pilot areas. Have you defined where those are in the cities and in the city? And then I guess as the first question, then I'll have a follow-up.
Sure. So we have been working with Councilman Johnson's office to look at that those statistics rather. And in recent news, over the Rhine, Corryville, Avondale, where a lot of criminal activity is occurring, but even in some of the other areas don't get as much spotlight because they're not revenue generating areas that, again, and want to also work with the mayor's office to figure out how do then we tie in what's happening or the responsiveness in over the Rhine to other areas where crime is happening on a daily basis. So we're working to get that data. I know that we looked at some of the homicide rates, but what's posted on the city's page is a little dated. It's a couple months in terms of how recent or active it is. And one of the things that we looked at in comparison was Philadelphia's statistic reporting, and they are almost at less than 24 hours up to date on, what their homicide rates are. So we're trying to parallel that to be able to get that data.
Awesome. Yeah, no, let us know on the city lights, making sure the city light, obviously we have control or influence over that as a city. And so anything we can do to help there, just let us know.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Boyd, like I said, great presentation. We greatly appreciate you taking some time out this morning to come down. We will stay in touch. And as the Vice Mayor alluded to, this is innovative and this is new. I personally haven't heard anybody talk about this. And like I said, it's one of those things that we have to make sure that we are engaging in every arena possible to do what we can to help with the reduction of gun violence. But thank you very much, and we will definitely be in touch.
All right, thank you, and
Thank
thank
you,
God
Mr.
for the
Boyd.
opportunity.
Greatly
Take care.
appreciate